This is so delightful to have everyone. So I'm going to ask each of you briefly just to do a little quick introduction of who you are, where you come from, what your, maybe just a little about your experience. And then we'll talk a little bit about kind of how you got here and share a little bit about what you've experienced in your life with cutaneous lymphoma. So I'm going to start with Michelle.
Good morning. My name is Michelle. I am a native to Los Angeles. We do exist. I was diagnosed in 2023, so I am fairly new, knowing that I have CTCL. I've dealt with it for decades, didn't unknowingly dealt with it for decades, and I was diagnosed at stage 1A.
Okay.
Good
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carole Bucal. I'm from Pennsylvania. I was diagnosed with Sézary syndrome in 2020 after 12 years.
Oh, good morning. I'm not a patient. I'm what you call a caretaker. I didn't know that word even. My wife was diagnosed with MF, something like 10 years, or she's on a poster, and I still have to remind myself. But I didn't know what she had. She said, well, I've got this MF, and I'm a surgeon. And I went to the toilet because she was a bit cross with me because I didn't know anything. After a couple of months, I didn't even know anything about the disease. I went one evening with an old book that I had, internal medicine, and I just looked it up. And so a couple of years later, all of a sudden I was chair of the Dutch CutaneousLymphomaFnd. She made me do something. And so that's my story. I'm just a caretaker and always been on the other side of the table, what I call the good side. And going with her to the clinic in Leiden University was a real eye-opener, being on the other side of the table. And it changed my life.
Thank you. And this is Eize, by the way, from
I forgot to.
Amsterdam. So I'm going to go to Carole real quick here. So I know a little bit about your journey, but maybe you'd like to share some of the initial challenges that you faced that I think we were sadly not unique, but how the challenges that you had to navigate through the health system and some of the roadblocks you faced in order to get to the right place, the right treatments and things like that.
So in 2008, it started with just a little rash on my leg. And then as the time went by, I was diagnosed with eczema. As the years progressed, I got another diagnosis from a dermatologist for lichen planus. And I used all the topical ointments you could ever imagine. I started getting so red, and the rashes were so bad. The burning, the itching. At one point, I had to wrap my feet with saran wrap just to walk comfortably. But I was still diagnosed with eczema. I was told by several dermatologists that it's eczema, I would just have to live with it because there's no cure. Fast forward to 2019, it had gotten so bad that I could not wear any clothing. My primary care doctor sent me to a hematologist, referred me to a hematologist. And they did a blood work, and he said the results, you have cancer, but I don't know what cancer you have. However, I'm gonna refer you to another dermatologist They did not accept my insurance. Needless to say, I was devastated because finally I would get some answers as to why I'm itching, why I'm burning. My hands were so, they were so bad that having a shower would be the worst thing for me. 2 weeks after they denied me a visit to the doctor, I got a referral to Sydney Kimmel Cancer Center. After 12 years, I don't know if you met him yesterday, but his name is Dr. Porco. Getting diagnosed was the hardest thing for me. The treatments are hard, but getting a diagnosis was the hardest thing. In 1 week, I was diagnosed. I had a treatment plan, and 3 years after, here I am. And I'm so sorry, I'm getting emotional, but when I think about where I'm coming from to where I am right now, my last treatment was October of last year. And I have never, and when I was going through my treatment, my oncologist told me that I have someone I would like you to meet, and it was Miss Suzanne. And I said, Dr. Porco, do you ever have a patient like me? He says, yes, we exist. I thought I was just in this journey alone, and it was amazing when I met you, Miss Susan, and the community, such beautiful people. They just embraced me, and I felt like I belong. You know, I'm not in this alone. So to my fellow cutaneous lymphoma patient, be positive. Lend yourself some grace. Be positive doesn't mean you have to be happy every day, because you're not. But it's just that to know that there's a better tomorrow.
Thank you, Carol. This is why we're here. So Michelle, we were chatting a little bit earlier about maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of taking the journey and then finding community and what that really means, because I think that's something very important, that there's probably a lot of people out there that feel similarly, that don't know we exist and haven't found us or don't think they need us.
Absolutely. So unknowingly, my journey started while I was in college. I was about 20 years old. That's the earliest point that I can remember having patches localized on my trunk area. They'd get thick and scaly, and they would be painful. Quickly learned that itching made them much worse. So I trained myself for 2 decades to not scratch. My first medical encounter was at the Student Health Center. Here's some hydrocortisone, have a good day. Decades of PCPs, a few dermatologists. I've gone through a variety of topical steroids. It's eczema. It is what it is. Just, you need to live with this. So I learned to live with it. Me and my patches have been together for over 25 years. My primary course of treatment up until I was diagnosed was Aquaphor. A consistent application of Aquaphor kept my skin pliant, never reduced the redness, never made the spots go away, but we cohabitated. So in the summer of 22, I got COVID. And by the end of that year, my spots started progressing from my trunk up my back, down the backs of my legs, and that was not normal for me. So one of my friends actually suggested, that I see a dermatologist and demand I get biopsied. Over the last 25 years, biopsy never even crossed my mind. No one suggested it. My clinicians, it was just assumed to be eczema, carry on as is. So I was biopsied and diagnosed as MF. I was referred to a specialist, but it was going to be at least 4 weeks before I'd be able to get into the office, which at the time, here I have had these patches for, over 25 years. 4 weeks was an eternity. Like, what was I gonna do in these 4 weeks? Of course, I Googled. And I came to find the foundation's website with a plethora of education, a plethora of information on this crazy, mouthful mycosis fungoides cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. I did come across a video talking about sunlight, using sunlight as a form of phototherapy, and that I indeed have access to. So in that month before I saw my specialist, I would take a lunch break and sun myself, and lo and behold, I had some quick results, and that was just the start of my journey. So engaged in UVB phototherapy on Valcalor, which I continue to be on, and as the months progressed, I came upon the Zoom networking sessions, and I feel like I'm a salesperson for these these networking sessions, because exactly as Susan had paraphrased was, I didn't know this is a community that I needed until I found it. I'm still emotional after your talk, but it's true, meeting and engaging with individuals who have similar experiences, we're not the same. We have, it's a wide spectrum of what we encounter, but it can be very isolating. It can be you live in your head, you don't know that you have anybody to talk to, and just being able to make that connection with others is a very powerful thing. So my sales pitch, please do. Look for those networking sessions and give it a spin. No harm can come of it, only good can come of it.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And I'll just do a quick shout out to Laurel Carlson, who's our board president. Laurel really, the networking groups have been her passion for the last 10, 12, 15 years, and she actually started the first networking group in person in Washington, D.C., and the group still gathers after all these years, but it really was Laurel's inspiration and dedication to making sure we had an opportunity for people to connect, and now we have technology. So the first Tuesday of every month in the evening and the first Thursday, second Tuesday, second Thursday. No, first Tuesday, second Thursday. Okay. There you go. It's all on the website, and you can go and register. Anyway, so I'm going to come back to Eize because I think it's amazing and interesting. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Eize and his wife, Brigitte, and the team in the Netherlands. We spent some time together last October when one of the medical meetings was there in Leiden, but we've been engaged back and forth since the inception of the organization, and maybe
you were on a bike even.
They made
I put
me
it on
ride.
the bike on my daughter, and we got the dust off that bike, and we said, okay, we're going to have a bike ride. And Brigitte was in front, you were in the middle, like this, and it was a very beautiful day in Amsterdam.
Ever
but
been
it is
in Amsterdam?
Crowded. Yeah.
And you know that they all ride their bikes, and if you are not I was really happy I didn't die that day.
True. We had made reservations already at the ICU, but no, but it's no. You were quite something, and we got wonderful photographs. But having said that, this is really a moving story. It's when I go with Brigitte, I go to the clinic, and we go there by train, and because it's 3/4 of an hour in the train, and we make a small list of a checklist, like, okay, we're going to ask this, this, and this. And we go back after this afternoon, and we haven't asked these questions. The doctor was in the lead, a colleague was in the lead. The fact that you go in with a list and that you're getting out not having the answers that you were discussing beforehand, etc., it really made me a different spouse. I mean, I'm a better husband, but right now, and I'm a better doctor, I think. Your story is exactly what Brigitte had. She didn't have any support from me. I didn't know what she had, and I was a bit embarrassed to admit that. I'm a guy, so I've got my ego, etc. So, I mean, I was really very small back then, and she said she's very savvy on the internet. So she just went on the internet, what you also did, and she got onto you, and she said, "Here, look, there are more people like me." I said, "Yes, dear," and but that was years ago. I mean, I've become a different person then, and but it is mind-boggling that you were on your own and you had to figure it out. And still, she comes with treatments, going to that clinic, and she says to the residents that are there, that are first, they're hidden behind a computer, and with this screen, and then they say, "Okay, you're still here." "Yeah, I'm still here." And she says, "Okay, can we try this and this?" And then the resident, of course, third-year resident, he doesn't know what she's talking about. He has to look it up. I see him going on Google in that instant. I mean, it's so frustrating. And you must have been, I can imagine why you're so emotional, because it must be incredibly frustrating. And then you also have the problem of your not being able to go to a physician because your insurance doesn't allow it. I mean, thank God we don't have that problem, because if we would have had that problem, even more, that would be devastating, I think. And you're, can I say, a success story, because you're here. But mind you, we had a talk about that. They're like Jeff and Trish. Basically, it's the success. It's not a success that you have it and that you're here. Is a success. But there are numerous people that can't find you or are still in the dark. And how do you reach them? How do you get to them? Because there must be numerous that are not a success story.
Yeah, and I think that's our whole mission. And I think one of the things that, again, I'm really excited to have our sister organization in the Netherlands. We have another small, newly formed volunteer organization in Spain, because I know we don't get to everyone even here in the US, but once you get out of the US, there's really unless people stumble upon us, there's no real way of people finding the support and the help. So, y'all can go out and talk to your friends and families, just let people know that patient organizations exist. It's a good thing, right? Look them up, because it does make a difference. Let's see. Okay, I gotta look at my time. How are we doing? Where's Autumn? We have lots of time. What else would we like to talk about? Carole, I know you had some unique experiences. For people of color, it's a little bit of a different, the way the disease presents on the skin, it looks really differently. I think we've got a lot of work to do there. But maybe you can share a little bit about that experience and some of the challenges, because I think we really need to take a different and a more proactive approach.
So the way my Caesary presented itself, because I'm of dark skin, it was unless you came close to me, you would never know that I had rash on my skin. And most of the dermatologists that I went to, it's eczema. I'm itching, I have rash, oh, that's eczema. And it was very, very frustrating, because here I am telling you, could you please this is new, could you just look at it for me? No, my hands are getting cracked. Could you just look at it? That's where eczema presents itself. Maybe it's different with you. And they never, ever, I was never examined thoroughly. because I don't know why. But once they would see me, it's eczema. I was told that it's stress. I was told that it's all in my mind. Originally from Jamaica, I was told to go back to my country and it would be better for me. So it was for 12 years, I suffered. I was dying. I really was. I saw Dr. Porku yesterday and I said, you know, Doc, you've never told me what stage I had. He says, Carole, you were stage 4. No, I can tell you. But when I saw you, I couldn't say that to you because I had to give you hope. It was extremely, I could not go on the street because I could not wear clothing. I couldn't. So it was very hard. Most dermatologists, they don't accept your insurance, and when they do, it's one topical ointment after another. I did the light treatment, I did topical ointments, I did everything known that was for eczema. I had it all. I had it all. And it was just devastating, but I'm here now.
Yay,
And I'm
team.
with the community, and I'm happy. I really am.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to go back to Michelle because I think, you know, we chatted a little bit about how do we bring this out to other people? How do we share what you were saying, right? You didn't know that you needed a community until you found it. And some thoughts on how do we get to folks? How do we share and make sure people can get connected to you and you can help other people with your story?
So I've actually given some thought to that. I feel like it starts in that dermatologist's office.
Yes, ma'am.
That permeating those offices with as much information and building that connection is a very powerful thing. There's so many different offices, you know, that we're talking a myriad of clinicians throughout the country, but the bottom line is when you have that skin condition, where are you gonna go? You are eventually gonna hit a dermatologist's office. And whether that dermatologist acknowledges what you have to be what it is or does further exploration, when were you biopsied?
In 2020.
So like at the tail end, you know, I'm gonna have to look this up. How much does a biopsy cost? You know, is there's probably a reason why we just eyeball it or why clinicians eyeball it and determine it to be eczema or psoriasis without doing that biopsy. The biopsy is key, especially for the diagnostics of this disease. And I was intending on seeing a dermatologist and demanding a biopsy and not leaving until I got it because, you know, my situation had changed. But I feel like permeating those dermatological offices is key. That is the first touch point. Literally having a pamphlet, you know, like since I've been in office so much lately, I sit there for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour until my clinician appears. And there's all these pamphlets for different disease states. I don't see a pamphlet for mycosis fungoides. Maybe something as simple as that to, you know, cause that light bulb to go off might be of assistance. That's very low tech, very retro in an approach, but I feel like in order to bring that kind of awareness and to bring those individuals into the community, it has to be, you know, boots on the ground. It has to be that level of penetration for this information.
Great. So hopefully I was going to say, so our industry partners are listening, and I think those, you know, a lot of times they have boots on the ground, right? In the physicians' practices, we don't know who all those people are. We can figure out a better way to raise some of that awareness, but for everyone that knows anyone that goes to see a dermatologist, you know, we're more than happy to give folks any of our publications to take to your local dermatologist and just share about the disease, just a little awareness. Happy to send you, a stack that you can give out locally, just even that basic kind of things.
But having said that, I mean, we have this in Holland. We have this one expertise center, and we're a country like a stamp. It's that small. So, but with 20 million odd people. But so we have this expertise center, and even then, when I said, okay, we're going to have these pamphlets, and I want them in the it's the Monday afternoon in the expertise center, everybody's there. Let's have these pamphlets. Then I get the head nurse says, okay, I don't want to have all these pamphlets here, and who's going to take them away when we clean up at 5 o'clock? It's these small things that you have to overcome, that you have to be smiling, and I mean, it's a myriad of things that you have to go through in order to get these simple things done even, let alone having this dermatology community to get some time to put your problems forward, to get 10 minutes of their time. We had this big conference now, I attended every day. There was one afternoon of quality of life. It was a great afternoon. But the audience was 30 people, I think. And it should have been the centerpiece. I mean, I've never had an afternoon in my profession with patients, so what am I talking about? But we had this afternoon, and that really got to me. There were wonderful stories, what is wonderful, but there were stories that really, like yours, two of you, that really hit me. And that's the way you get committed. But it should be the centerpiece. It's about the patient. Like Judy that stood up at the end of the room and said, hey, it's me here at the first big meeting. I mean, imagine there were all these doctors, all these egos filling the room. And there was this small lady like you. And she said, it's about me. I'm a patient. I mean, that must have been horrendous. But it's these people that you need to convince, and it's the small things. But you got to start somewhere. It's the nucleus, and then, yeah.
Right, and we're all here, so that's a start as well. Just one step and one step and one step. And I know the next World Congress is going to be in 2028 in London, and I was speaking with 2 of the physicians last night, and they got so excited. They're like, yeah, we're going to start to plan. So now perhaps we can put some seeds in there to do the patients at the beginning of the meeting to kick off the meeting, and then do the science, right? Because, so we'll see. I think we've got some opportunities now, so we'll see what we can do, right, Dr. Malloy? I'm going to put him on the spot. That's terrible. So let me ask if you had some nugget of wisdom to share with someone, and some advice of someone that might be, what would you tell them? I'll start with Michelle. What would you say?
Hindsight is an unfair bias, I think. It's a little bit difficult when someone's who's newly diagnosed with all these questions, searching for answers. The first thing I wanted to know were numbers. What percentage of the time is blah, blah, blah going to happen? I need to know. And in the grand scheme of things, you can only take it one day at a time. You can only work with what you have before you, and look to solve the problem that you have now. And so if I were to look back at Michelle last year, I tell her to chill out. 4 weeks is really not that long of a time, considering the typical duration of this disease progression, and just take it step by step. I've had a different experience than you did, than many of you in the audience, and that was very poignant to me yesterday during a presentation where this is like a customized cancer. We're the same yet very different, and no one size fits all. And it's coming to that conclusion and accepting it, that you just have to work towards that best quality of life that you can, as best as you can.
Thank you. Carole?
So for me, at this point, after 12 years, I did not want to know the in-depth of my treatment or anything. Dr. Porcu said, you have Sézary syndrome. I said, yes, let's go. Let's chemo, immunotherapy, let's do this. But I can tell you, please be patient with yourself. Please be patient. It's very hard, it's rough, but be patient because it will get better, especially if you have a doctor who cares. Especially if you have, the doctor makes, for me, the doctor made all the difference for me. Be patient with yourself.
Eize, words for care partners
Well,
out there?
for care partners, I've had this nugget that really stuck with me. That was last year. There was a Canadian guy, and he said, be aware that this is a very special disease because it can be gone for years and years. Not all of us, but a lot of them have this dormant thing. And he said, beware that the disease may be in remission, but the scare will never go into remission.
Never.
And that really stuck with me, the scare. So my wife is, so I went back and I thought, at night I woke up, I thought, she's scared. And I didn't even know it. But there must be, and she's been in remission now for a couple of years, but still, there's this scare lingering in the back of her head. It could be getting back again. And I could die from it, potentially. And the scare is something caregivers should always be aware of, that your partner is scared. And that really stuck with me. So the disease is in remission, probably, but the scare will never go.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's the constant companion. Yes, yes. So I'll open it up. Does anyone have any questions? Would people like to ask our delightful and wonderful and very courageous panel members any questions or comments, or while we have them on the stage? Great. Trish, I'm gonna do the mic running. Hang on.
First of all, I just want to say how wonderfully coherent and brave Carole and Michelle you've been in talking, and Eize about Brigitte's experience. My query has always been about education of the general physicians, not even the dermatologists, but taking it back to training of doctors from the very beginning, whether it should be embedded in their training and understanding that there may be so many patients living with so-called psoriasis or eczema out there, that there's a percentage of them who actually are living, as you, particularly Carole, lived with eczema, so-called, for so many years, and that whether more emphasis should be going, that whether the foundation can push to the education, to the medical schools, whether there's any further work that can go into early staged education.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. And I think, we're a small, rare disease, but we are one of other small, rare diseases, and I think there may be some opportunities to collaborate with other patient organizations to educate on the variety of rare diseases, right? So together we can collectively make some impact rather than going each disease, but perhaps there's a way that we can do. We're part of some umbrella organizations, so I will take that under advisement. It's a very good point.
Thank you for sharing your story. I'm also a survivor, And so I did have a question about taking 12 years. Was it 12 years to get diagnosed, or you've been in treatment for 12 years?
No, 12 years to get diagnosed.
And how long have you been getting treatment?
3 years.
Okay. I've been in treatment for 12 years, but a lot of your symptoms sounded very much like mine, not being able to wear clothes. So I can relate to you, and I appreciate both of you sharing your story.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Anyone else while we have our esteemed panel? Anyone else? Great. Okey doke. Well, I think we're up for a break, but I just want to say thank you to all of you. It is, this is why I do what I do every day. It's all because of you. Oh my goodness, now I'm going to get a little emotional. I mean, this work is obviously close to my heart, right? After 30 some odd years of living in some way, shape, or form with this disease, and it's really such an honor to be able to stand here to be and do this work, and we still have so much to do. But each and every one of you is a part of the family, but also a part of helping other people, and the fact that you had the courage to come here and to share your stories, to be very open and vulnerable, will go beyond this room and will touch other people. You just don't know it. So know that just being here is really making a difference, and you've had an impact, and I'm just so honored that you were willing to share your stories and your wisdom and your experience with everyone. So thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. And